Buddhism. Buddhism, or Buddhism, is a religion and also a system of philosophy originating from India, including a series of teachings, philosophical ideas as well as ideas and thoughts about humanity. Outlook on life, cosmology, worldview, explaining natural, spiritual, social phenomena, the nature of things and events, methods of practice based on the original teachings of a real historical figure named Siddhārtha Gautama, and the traditions and beliefs formed in the process of spreading, development of Buddhism after the time of Siddhārtha Gautama. Siddhārtha Gautama, often called Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha or the Enlightened One, the Awakened One. According to many Buddhist scriptures, as well as scientific and archaeological documents, it has been proven that he lived and preached in today's northeastern region of India, from around the 6th century BC. Era to the 5th century BC. More than 100 years after the Buddha entered Nirvana, when the Second Congress of Buddhist Canons took place, Buddhism began to divide into many branches and many different ideologies, with many differences. Different, although they both stem from the Buddha's Theravada Buddhist thought. Today there exist three main Buddhist traditions in the world. Southern Buddhism, also known as Theravada Buddhist tradition, was transmitted from South India to Sri Lanka, by sea to Southeast Asia. The largest representative of this tradition is the Theravada school, with the Pali Canon system, considered the closest preservation to the original philosophy of Buddhism. Northern Buddhism, also known as Northern Buddhism, the Buddhist tradition was transmitted from North India to Central Asia, along the Silk Road to China, spreading to Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. This tradition takes Mahayana ideology as its main theme, so it is also called Mahayana Buddhism, with a large and rich Sanskrit, Chinese, scripture system. Esoteric Buddhism, also known as Tantra, was also transmitted through Central Asia, via the Silk Road to Tibet, then spread to Mongolia, Nepal, and Bhutan. Influenced by Shingon ideology, typically the Vajrayana sect, the main use of the Tibetan scriptures is. Theravada Buddhism thrives in Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia such as Cambodia, Burma, Laos, Thailand, southern Vietnam. Northern Buddhism thrives in Northeast Asia such as China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, and includes many smaller branches such as Pure Land Buddhism, Zen Buddhism. Tantric Buddhism flourished in Tibet, Mongolia, Nepal, and Bhutan. Although it developed primarily in Asia, Buddhism is now found throughout the world. It is estimated that the number of people who officially follow Buddhism, have taken refuge in the Three Jewels, is about 350 million to 750 million people. However, the number of people who have not officially followed Buddhism, but have faith in Buddhism is even larger than this number. That number is very large, possibly reaching 1.5 billion people. For example, in China, with more than 1.4 billion people, the majority of the population believes in part or all of Buddhist teachings, and often goes to temples to worship Buddha, even though they are not identified as believers on their identification documents. Buddhist stuff. Early Buddhism was rational and atheistic, directing people to perceive the truth, also known as awakening and enlightenment. The original Sanskrit word Buddha is Buddha, Bud is enlightenment, to know, perceive, Dha is person, meaning one who understands. Buddha is a real historical figure named Siddhārtha Gautama, 625 BC to 545 BC, and according to Theravada Buddhism, he spent 45 years of his life, also according to Mahayana Buddhism, 49 years of life, to travel throughout northern India to spread the philosophy. However, according to the original concept of Buddhism, Buddha is an enlightened person, meaning he has achieved correct awareness of the self and the world around him, so he has been liberated. Anyone can become a Buddha, if he or she uses his or her own wisdom to properly perceive the self, and the world around is thereby liberated. Having overcome ignorance, an enlightened person becomes a Buddha, and is liberated. Buddhism does not follow materialism, nor does it follow idealism, nor do it model other subjective views. Buddhist schools differ in their views on the nature of the path to enlightenment and liberation, the orthodoxy of their sermons and scriptures, and especially in their methods of practice. Because it aims to correctly perceive the self and the objective world, the Buddhist philosophical system contains many ontological and epistemological perspectives. Metaphysics in Buddhist philosophy has developed to a high level. The West translates enlightenment as enlightenment, because in Western philosophy, enlightenment is using one's own intelligence to correctly perceive the world, equivalent to enlightenment in Buddhism. Like Confucianism, Taoism and modern Western philosophy, Buddhism is an enlightening philosophical system aimed at guiding people to truth, good, beauty. History. In the northeast of the Indian subcontinent is the tall and long Himalayan mountain range, creating a barrier that isolates the plains of this country from the rest of the region. To communicate with the outside, there is only the mountain road through Afghanistan. Around 3000 BC, the indigenous Dravidian people built the oldest civilization in India on the banks of the Indus and Ganges rivers. After that, nomadic Aryans gradually expanded and invaded Indian territories, and spread to most of the Indian peninsula around 1000 BC. The main philosophical culture that reigned at that time was the Vedic culture. Vedic culture is inclined toward the cult of many gods, as well as idealistic and mystical views of the world and universe. Later developments transformed Vedic culture into Brahmanism, and divided society into four main classes, of which the Brahmin caste, the clergy class, was the class. Ruling level. The idea of reincarnation, that creatures have cycles of birth and death, originated from Brahmanism, or earlier from Vedic culture. Brahmanism also believes that there exists a common nature of all things, which is the Great Self. Religion associated with it is philosophy, which thrives in India, with the emergence of many different and sometimes contradictory philosophies and ways of practicing religion. In the time before Buddhism appeared, there were many schools of cultivation. Philosophical trends are also strongly divided, such as trends, hedonism, randomness, skepticism of everything, mystical magic, materialism, idealism, asceticism, virtue practice, reciting mantras, read and chant sutras. Buddhism was preached by Siddhārtha Gautama, the founder of Buddhism, in northern India, in the 6th century BC. Spread over a period of 45 years according to Southern Buddhism, or 49 years according to Northern Buddhism. When Buddha was still alive, he traveled to many places and peoples, so the history of Buddhism's development was quite diverse in terms of sects as well as rituals, ceremonies or methods of practice and study. From the beginning, Buddha organized a church with strict precepts. In India, Buddhism may have begun to decline from the 7th century, and Buddhism actually disappeared in India from the early 13th century, due to strong repression by the government and Muslim armies. Outside. It was not until the mid-20th century that the Buddhist revival movement in India began, thanks to the work of an Indian political and social activist and economist named Bhimrao Ambedkar. However, Buddhism thrives in neighboring countries. Buddhism spread from India to Tibet, China, Northeast Asia, and Southeast Asia. Thanks to its enlightening nature and the flexibility of its philosophy, Buddhism is accepted by many people, and can adapt to many social situations, many classes, and many customs and traditions in different countries, different periods and countries, and therefore today Buddhism continues to exist, and is growing more and more widely around the world, even in countries with advanced science such as the United States, Canada, and Australia, and Europe. Buddhist philosophy is consistent with the spirit of enlightenment in Europe, so many philosophers here pay attention to studying Buddhism and propagating it. Immediately after attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya around the middle of the 6th century BC, there are documents that say that in 590 BC according to Southern Buddhism, or 595 BC according to Northern Buddhism, Buddha decided to preach his understanding. The first sutta that the Buddha preached was the Dharma Wheel Sutra, which taught a group of 5 monks to become arhats, Kyo Trannu, the group leader, Vapa, Vadya, Mahanama, and Asaji at the garden, releasing deer, called Deer Park, near Balanai capital. The first 100 disciples were people who had close relationships with the Buddha and formed the first Sangha, or Sangha. After that, these people spread out everywhere and spread the word. More and more people wanted to practice and study. In order to work with a growing number of people who practice and study, the Buddha established a standard for his disciples to rely on to recruit more people, called the precepts. This precept is mainly about taking refuge in the 3 jewels, relying on the 3 noble jewels, that is, accepting the guidance of the Buddha himself, the teachings of the Buddha, Dharma, and the community of people. Become a monk and practice according to the teachings of the Buddha, Sangha. During the Buddha's lifetime, Buddhist monks were gathered in an organization called the Sangha, and received direct guidance from the Buddha about the Dharma and methods of practice and practice. The Sangha is an organization of unity and equality among all members regardless of gender, age, background, or social class, and has the ultimate goal of bringing enlightenment to all members. The precepts of the Sangha are based on the principle of self-discipline. During meetings, precepts are raised, then members self-examine and admit violations, if any. The main rules mentioned are patience, doing good and avoiding evil, self-control and restraint in speech and diligence. Thanks to its egalitarian and disciplined organization, the Sangha avoids many divisions. In addition to monks, Buddha also had many lay disciples. Lay people were also preached by the Buddha and in turn participated in supporting the Sangha in many aspects. When Buddha was still alive, he is a philosopher, a true master, and the monks and the public are his students. Only after he entered nirvana did Buddhism form with a doctrinal system based on the Buddha's teachings. The church was founded by the Buddha's disciples, and the congregation were those who believed in the Buddha's teachings. Buddha, and respect Buddha. After the Buddha's nirvana, the Venerable Mahakasyapa took over the leadership of the church. He gathered 500 monks at Rajagaha to organize the first conference to compile Buddhist scriptures, to compile the Buddha's teachings. At this gathering, the Buddhist teachings were compiled by Venerable Pali, and approved by the Sangha. The Venerable Ananda compiled the teachings and was unanimously agreed upon by the masses. Venerable Ananda sequentially compiled the Sutras of Sangha 1, Sangha 10, Great Cause and Effect, Sangha Kewida, Samana Fruit, Pham Dong and Buddhist sutras preached to bhikkhus, bhikshunis, and upa, bodhisattvas, vipassayas, devas and humans. The long sutras are collected into a set called the long aham, the medium sutras are collected into a set called the middle aham. The sutras that speak to many subjects such as bhikkhus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas and devas are gathered into a series called samaham. The sutras sequentially speak from one dharma to 11 dharmas collected into a set called tangyataham. In addition, the collection of sutras covering many issues into a collection is called the Tripitaka. After this period of compilation, the Vinaya and Sutra Pitaka of Buddhism were basically formed. The Church kept its traditional activities until the second collection of canonical scriptures. The Second Congress of Buddhist Scriptures took place about 100 years after the Buddha's nirvana, due to conflicts about precepts and debates about the imperfection of an arhat. The event took place as follows. Elder Dasa, while on a tour to the city of Bhikkhu, noticed that the bhikkhus here committed many acts that violated the precepts. Among them, the most serious is receiving gold and silver offerings from donors. He said this to the people and bhikkhus in Bhiksaralai, "You should not donate money. I personally followed the Buddha to listen to the Dharma. If anyone asks for alms that is not in accordance with the Dharma, as well as those whoever gives alms is not in accordance with the Dharma, both commit a sin." The bhikkhus here refused to believe that they were guilty. They said that these were appropriate adjustments to the culture and customs here. The conflict could not be resolved, and so they decided to expel Dasa. Dasa then went to many different lands, gathering elders and people knowledgeable about Buddhism, with the aim of considering whether actions contrary to the precepts were acceptable or not. This congress marked the first official division of Buddhism into the Presbyterian and Mahasanma sects. The congress also has two other names, 700 Councils and Vaisali Councils, because the assembly took place in the city of Vaisali with the participation of 700 arhats. When the congress ended, Elder Lee Bada concluded, "What is not established by Buddha cannot be arbitrarily regulated, what is established by Buddha must not be violated. The monks must study diligently." What Buddha taught. The Third Congress of Buddhist Canons took place exactly 118 years after the Second Congress of Buddhist Canons, under the patronage of King Ashoka, that is, about 218 years after the Buddha's nirvana. Year, which is about 325 BC. The conference lasted about 9 months under the chairmanship of Maudgalyana II. The location of the conference is VN Lam Garden, Poati City, in central India. The number of participants in the conference is 1,000 people. The purpose of the Congress is to prevent monks from preaching pagan teachings to followers, thereby preventing rifts in the Sangha. The gathering format is the same as the previous two congresses. After concluding the collection, Maudgalyana II Emperor II composed the book Theory of Acts to refute the meaning of contemporary pagan sects. Another important job of this Congress is to edit the treatises. Since then, the Buddhist scriptures have been fully systematized into the Tripitaka, including the Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutra Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka. Emperor Maudgalyana assigned his disciple to spread this Tripitaka to 9 other countries including Lankadipa, Sri Lanka, Suvarnabhumi, Myanmar, Thailand, Himavanta, in the Himalayas, Iona, Greece. The Fourth Conference on the Collection of Buddhist Canons is the common name for 2 conferences on the compilation of Buddhist scriptures in Sri Lanka and Kashmir. In 25 BC, at Thuparama Temple in the capital Anuradhapura of Sri Lanka, the Theravada sect organized a conference to compile the sutras. There is also a theory that this conference took place about 400 years after Gautama's death and was sponsored by King Vatthāgamani. There is another theory that this congress took place in 232 BC, Buddhist year 313, during the reign of King Devanampiya Tissa. He ruled from 307 BC to 267 BC, died 267 BC. The result of this compilation of the Theravada school is a collection of scriptures in Pali, written on palm leaves and spread to the lands of the Mon people in Myanmar, Cambodia, Thailand, and Laos today. Another conference, organized by the Sarvastivada sect in Kashmir, took place about 400 years after Gautama's death, about the year 78, in the city of Kesmira in Kushan country, under the protection of the king of this country. Is Kanishka. The chairman of the conference is Vasumitra, the who. The number of delegates is 500 people. The purpose of the Congress was to systematize the treatises of the Sarvastivada school. The result of the gathering of the Sarvastivada sect was 3 treatises in Sanskrit, including 300,000 verses and 9.6 million words engraved on bronze leaves. The 5th Buddhist Canon Collection Congress, held in 1871 in Mandalay, Burma, under the patronage of King Mindon. Attending the conference were 2,400 Buddhist monks. The conference is chaired by Venerable Pongyi Sayadaw. Famous monks like Jagrabhai Vamsa, Narendra Biaja, Sumangalasami attended the congress. As a result, the entire Tripitaka was written on 729 marble slabs, each slab more than 1.5 meters high and nearly 1 meter wide, with inscriptions on both sides. The Vinaya Pitaka is engraved on 101 stone slabs, the Sutra Pitaka on 520 slabs, and the Abhidharma Pitaka on 108 slabs. The commentary of the Tripitaka is engraved on 1,774 other stone slabs. These stone slabs were kept by the king in the Mahalokamarakin Tower and the Kandamuni Tower. The 6th Buddhist Sutra Collection Congress took place from Buddha's birthday on May 17, 1954 to Buddha's birthday in 1956 in the capital Yangon, Burma. The Congress is sponsored by the government of Burma. Delegates came from Burma and Theravada countries including Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India, and Nepal. The chairman of the Congress is Nyangan Sayadaw. The person who raised questions about the scriptures was Mahasi Sayadaw. The one who answered the question was Mingan Sayadaw, Vedanta Visitasara Bivamsa. The question and answer session was watched, questioned and recorded by the chairman and 2,500 Buddhist monks. The scriptures are compiled, reviewed, and annotated in 3 languages, Pali, Burmese, and English. The scriptures of the 5th Congress were used as a basis, and compared with ancient scriptures from Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Thailand and the Pali Canon Association in London. Core teachings. Compassion and wisdom are 2 pillars of Buddhist teachings. The entire Buddhist teachings aim to direct people to use their intelligence and perceive the world as it really is, in order to live compassionately. The entire teachings of Buddhism are contained in the Tripitaka, including 1. Sutra Pitaka includes sermons of the Buddha himself, or his great disciples. Buddhist scriptures are translated from Pali and are considered closest to Buddha's teachings. Includes 5 sets. 1. Long Nikaya, 2. Central Nikaya, 3. Samyutta Nikaya, 4. Anguttara Nikaya, and 5. Minor Nikaya. There are also comments and sub-comments. 2. Vinaya contains the history of the development of the Sangha as well as the precepts of monastics. It is considered the oldest book, born only a few decades after Buddha entered Nirvana. 3. Abhidharma Pitaka, primitive Buddhism is called Abhidharma or Abhidhamma, contains knowledge about the mind. The Tripitaka that has been passed down most completely is the Pali Tripitaka. According to history, the Sutra Pitaka and Vinaya Pitaka in Pali were rewritten in the first compilation, 480 BC, in which Upamali spoke about the Vinaya and Ananda presented the Dharma. The words narrated by these 2 great disciples became the basis of those 2 collections. And the treasury of wonderful dharmas also formed right after that. In the Amitabha Sutra, before entering nirvana, Buddha Shakyamuni left behind a teaching: after the Tathagata has passed away, the bhikkhus should take the precepts as their teacher. In the Tripitaka, Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka, Buddha considered the precepts to be the most important thing to maintain Buddhism. The precepts still exist, the Buddha Dharma still exists. The precepts no longer exist, the Buddha Dharma is also lost. Buddhist scriptures also record that Buddha once prophesied that his teachings would last for 5,000 years, and then be destroyed. Because over a long period of time, later generations of monks, nuns, and Buddhists have found it increasingly difficult to practice according to Buddha's teachings, and the teachings have also become increasingly mixed or misunderstood. Gradually come to the essential, the pure precepts will no longer be kept. When the precepts are lost, Buddhism will also be destroyed. This is called the Dharma ending period. This destruction also happened to the teachings of all Buddhas in the past. Shakyamuni Buddha also prophesied that, in a very distant future, when Buddhism has been destroyed, and the existence of Shakyamuni Buddha has been forgotten by humanity, the next Buddha, Maitreya Buddha, will appear. Present, once again teaching Buddhism to humanity. Tu Thanda. Sioso tu tuong varkot loi kuatritli phat giao la tu Thanda. Bon chan li giai tik ban chat kua suko trong luan hoi, nien nien kua suko, var lan the now de giai tiu dao ko. Nu ko mo mon lua tu che jua hu kung, vo nian, vo duan, ve ti hi mon dia pi tat mon lua e la dia kung the now, the new and guak le, trong tuk ti non lua now che len kung ko nian, ko duan kua no, nu, chat dut, kung hi, vv. Hi chung ta loi bo kak dia kain do ti non lua kung tat, tuong tu nu ve, duk phat deo doi tuk ko dao, koda, ko dao kung ko nien nian, tiapida, ko dao ko the dap tat, diet de, var bat chan dao, trong dao la con duong dua den ko diet, dao da. Tu jur de la su nian tuk dung dien kak lo I ko dao, nien nien dien den ko dao, trang tai kung ko dao var con duong de twat dao ko. Con noi kai twat koi dao ko nor nian tuk dung vi dao ko. Twat koi vo min thet dao ko. De la quan diem trit hoc mang teen jui li. 1. Coda, chan li vi su ko, dao tren than gom, shine, lao, bnh, tu, ko tom gom, song chung voi noi min kung wa, sa lia noi than yu, mung mon ma kung duok, chap vow than new yuan. Ko dao la mo hien tuk, kung nen tron che, kung nen phot lo, kung nen kuong jia wa. Mon gyai quet ko dao tuati and phi tu nian no, cogang fan tich no de nian tuk no mo catch sao sak. 2. Tiapida, chan li vi su fat shine kua ko dao deo ko nien nian tuang thay du tamai, san han, see me, chap Thursday. Kan chui tim dung nien nian shine ra ko, muan gok sao sa shine ra ko trong shine tiu luan hoi la du vo min va I duk, nyung mat sik lien quan nam trong 12 nian duan. 3. Diet de, chan li vi diet ko, la trang tai kung ko dao ko, la mo suan vui gyai twat chan that, la mo hun fuk tuat voi hi cham dut duk vong var cham dut vo min. 4. Dao de, chan li vi con duong dien den diet ko, Phuong Phop Tadi Densu Diet Ko, La Con Duong Diet Ko Tam Nian, Bat Chin Dao, Va Zoe Quan Ba Tiu Kot Chin, La Tri Tu, Dao Duk Va Tien Ding. Phuong Tien He Phop Mondathan Tu Con Duong Bat Chi Than Dao La 37 Pham Tro Dao. The Eightfold Path. Right view. Practitioners gain knowledge about morality and ethics through study and practice experience. The knowledge base is based on Buddha's teachings, which are the teachings of the law of cause and effect, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 12 Causes and Conditions, the Four Immeasurable Minds, the Four Right Efforts, the 5 Powers, meditation, and emptiness. Accept the merit. Right thinking. Practitioners rely on knowledge from right view to think correctly, to bring benefits and happiness to the community. The practitioner practices right thinking to build the soul and become virtuous with each intention. When an unwholesome mind arises, the practitioner is determined to eliminate it, knows how to repent, and knows how to guard against it another time. When interacting with life, the practitioner always proactively creates good intentions, reminding himself that there is no self, allowing him to be greedy, angry, and angry. Practitioners often remind themselves to live altruistically, always be respectful and peaceful, and not boast and be arrogant. Practitioners often develop a mind of reverence. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in the 10 directions are like looking up to high mountains, while oneself is like dust. Practitioners often initiate compassion and spread it everywhere. Practitioners remind themselves to avoid lowly defilements and try to maintain pure moral conduct following the example of the saints. The progress of practice depends on the practitioner becoming increasingly sophisticated, controlling his mind, and discovering wrong ideas. Right speech. Practitioners practice speaking words that bring peace and happiness to the community. Don't criticize indiscriminately, don't say dirty things, don't say compliments, don't say competitive things, don't say false things. However, there are still cases where you have to tell someone's mistakes. Others so they know how to fix errors and avoid damage to the community. Need to practice speaking peaceful words, praising good people for others to hear, often praising Buddha's teachings, often talking about cause and effect, about many reincarnations. Practitioners can do good karma, or evil karma is based on every moral or immoral word. Right action. Practitioners perform specific actions and bring joy to the community. The practitioner does not do or prevents others from doing evil things that cause suffering to sentient beings, only does good deeds, and encourages others to do good deeds for the happiness of sentient beings. Sometimes it's letting good people advance, sometimes it's taking on heavy responsibilities, sometimes it's strictly preventing bad people from doing wrong, sometimes it's helping those who do good. The practitioner is very diligent in paying homage to the Buddha, repenting for thousands of years of experience, no longer doing bad deeds, trying to cultivate good deeds. Bodhisattvas have extraordinary right actions, often indirectly helping sentient beings without knowing. Practitioners practice countless specific actions to create boundless blessings. Right livelihood. Practitioners do a career that helps support themselves. Thanks to the blessings from right action, the practitioner is free to choose a career, so that the blessings will continue to increase. A good profession must include 2 good elements: creating blessings every day, and having time to practice. As for the monk's profession, he is begging for alms, but he does not bow down lowly, but is always dignified and dignified. Right effort. The practitioner practices diligently in meditation. At this stage, practitioners encounter many difficulties and obstacles in the process of practice. Even though there are many obstacles, the practitioner is confident in practicing and meditating towards the goal of selflessness. Meditation is carefully practiced, with the reminders of true monks, to be able to progress. Mindfulness, mindfulness and awareness. Over time of genuine practice, the practitioner gradually achieves a state of mindfulness and awareness. In this state, the practitioner controls the mind, does not become confused or confused, and does not chase after sound and form. Even though it's just the beginning and not yet deep into the practice process, practitioners need to pay careful attention and avoid arrogance and arrogance. Practitioners still need to go through many lifetimes of solid residence before completing the stage of mindfulness. The value of this stage's practice is for the practitioner to eliminate the 5 hindrances in order: greed, this person is no longer greedy or wants to hoard anything; anger, this person is no longer angry for any reason; drowsiness, if you need to stay awake and not sleep, it is very easy to wake up, even though your body will be tired; nay, have wisdom to understand many things in life; trouser, a person's body in meditation is solid, can meditate for a very long time. With very perfect morality and great good karma, the practitioner can attain the holy fruit of Sotapanna, first fruit, and Sotapanna, second fruit, in the stage of mindfulness. Right concentration, true concentration, practitioners persistently practice to overcome the 4 levels of meditation. Basic 4 levels of meditation. First meditation, separation from desire and evilness gives rise to joy and happiness, has thoughts. Second meditation, eliminates thoughts, destroys thoughts, concentration gives rise to joy and happiness, in a calm, one mind. Third meditation, to let go of joy, to dwell in equanimity. The 4 meditations, to let go of pleasure, to let go of suffering, to let go of pure thoughts, along with supporting methods such as 4 foundations of mindfulness, contemplation of breathing, contemplation of body impermanence. Mentioned in the Pali Canon. With very perfect morality and great good karma, the practitioner can attain the holy fruit of Siddhātha, 3 fruitions. After achieving the 4 jhanas, the practitioner fully reflects on the non-self. He will attain the 3 insights including sufficient life insight, heavenly eye insight, and avalokitesvara insight. After attaining the 3 enlightenments, the practitioner is completely liberated, and achieves holy arahantship. The arhats declare rebirth has ended, holy conduct has been achieved, what should have been done, there is no more return. This life and death again. Karma and reincarnation. In Buddhism, there are 2 important concepts, cause and effect and reincarnation. Cause and effect. 1. Buddhism explains that all events are manifestations of the law of cause and effect. That is, all events are the result of previous causes. That incident itself is a cause of the later result. Cause is sometimes called karma, and once one has sown karma, one will certainly reap the fruit. To distinguish positive from negative in a relative way, there is the concept of favorable fate, anti-karma, or good karma, bad karma. From cause to effect there is an element of fate. Fate is a favorable condition, an opportunity that allows a result to happen; favorable fate, or a hindering condition, delaying the result to a slower pace, sometimes eliminating the result, opposing fate. Complex cause and effect interactions that take place in parallel or consecutively are called dependent origination. 2. Cause and effect interact according to the law of correspondence. What is the cause, so is the effect. Apple seeds cannot produce grapefruits, mango seeds cannot produce peaches. Buddhist scriptures say, if this exists, that arises. If this arises, that arises. If this does not exist, that does not arise. This ceases, then that ceases. Causes of the same type, but opposite directions, will interact and compensate for each other. Whichever is stronger will create the result after compensation. The theory of cause and effect based on the original scriptures explains that karma that has been sown can be changed, because new causes are planted that oppose the old causes. The law of cause and effect is flexible and flexible. To be able to discover problems of the law of cause and effect requires practitioners to study, practice and contemplate. Stage 1, the law of cause and effect is basically explained by the saying, "You reap what you sow." Stage 2, the law of cause and effect explains the situation: a person asks for money and buys a knife to kill another person. Cause and effect here: it is not because this person gives money that they will be blessed, but if the person uses the money to do evil, the giver will be guilty. At this stage, those who practice cause and effect must be careful in their own actions. Stage 3, the law of cause and effect explains the situation: the thief sneaked into a person's house and took some gold. If this is the cause and effect of losing that family's property, then why arrest the thief, when the thief did the right cause and effect? Karma comes to this stage on the basis that this family is at the point of suffering the retribution of losing their property, the thief is at the point of committing the act of theft, both parties are qualified to do so. In it, the thief has enough basis to enjoy retribution from evil thoughts about the theft plan. That person also sowed bad karma for his future. The more one contemplates and practices cause and effect, the more wisdom one has to live correctly, to live a beneficial life, to support the practice of the Bodhisattva path. The law of cause and effect not only exists in human society, but exists in the entire universe, applicable to all material objects. Nothing or phenomenon occurs in the universe without a cause. 3. Even though humans cannot see all of it and cannot completely explain cause and effect, the cause and effect relationship is still an objective natural law. There are people who are not aware of it, and may not even believe in cause and effect, but this law still operates and governs everything, including themselves. However, unlike modern science, when explaining human life, Buddhism believes that cause and effect relationships last throughout time, not just in one life. This leads to the concept of reincarnation. Reincarnation. 4. Reincarnation refers to consciousness going through many lives. Death is the end of a life. The mind carries karma to be reborn in a new life. The form of a life is different. It can switch between species and worlds: animal realm, human realm, asura realm, heavenly realm. The cause and effect relationship determines the way of reincarnation, or in other words, depending on the karma created, the corresponding reincarnation will be achieved to receive the results. 5. Death is the end of one life, but is the beginning of another life, continuing endlessly. Even if one life ends, one will continue to reincarnate into another life to receive results. As long as reincarnation is still suffering. Buddhism points out that reincarnation can only be broken if one is enlightened, meaning one can escape the cycle of birth and death, if one knows how to destroy the causes that lead to reincarnation, meaning there is no longer any relationship. Cause and effect. Buddhism calls it liberation, and all of Buddha's teachings aim to point out the path to liberation. As Buddha said, like salty is the taste of seawater, and the taste of my religion is liberation. Metaphysics. In Buddhism, metaphysical issues are not an important issue for those who are trying to carry out spiritual experiments. For monks who often asked metaphysical questions, the Buddha often punished them for that reason. He taught that the most important thing is to move forward with self-improvement, to be liberated and enlightened, not to waste time and energy on metaphysical issues. Monks, don't wonder about this problem. Whether this world is finite or infinite, finite or infinite. Whether this world is finite or infinite, finite or infinite, what we must accept is that it really exists in this life, are still sufferings, birth, old age, sickness, and death. The Buddha selected a few basic truths beneficial to the liberation and cessation of suffering to teach his 4 disciples. In the Bible, there is a story about a person who was hit by a poisoned arrow and refused to let people pull out the arrow to apply the medicine. Wait, wait, wait until I pull out the arrow. So I have to find out who shot me and what his face is like. What's your name? What village? Do you have any enmity with me? Then spit it out later. If we could find out all that, then the poison would have already penetrated into the body, and there would be no way to save it. Buddha said, disciples must practice the method of liberation and cessation of suffering. Do not waste time learning about idle things. Unenlightened disciples often wonder about nirvana, and ask questions about nirvana. Buddha was silent many times before those questions. His silence was also a response. Learning about nirvana is a waste of time, and can easily lead people to false imaginations. Nirvana is an entity that needs to be realized, not an object of rational inferences. Not considering metaphysical issues as important is a special feature of Buddhism. A monk who is determined to attain enlightenment is not required to have the faith of a believer. He or she may not be concerned about the issues of ecstasy, heaven, samsara, or hell. He only needs to ask the question of liberation and cessation of suffering. Because that person was able to realize the true nature of suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and non-self of all things, the truth of suffering, the same cause of the sufferings of those attachments, the truth of origin, and resolutely eliminate them by reasonable methods, the truth, to come to victory over suffering, to live in pure bliss, the truth of cessation. Once successful, you will know everything, understand everything, because then you will have lived in the truth. Spiritual experimentation will lead to enlightenment, understanding all mystical truths with prajna wisdom. There is a view that truth can only be understood through experimentation, so inferences about metaphysical issues are just theory, it's not necessary, so don't think that Buddhist teachings only aim to answer metaphysical questions. Worldview. Many other religions believe that the earth is the center of the universe, the place most favored by God. But Buddhism believes that the earth is just one of countless coexisting worlds. Each world has different characteristics. The world we live in is just like a grain of sand in the universe. Shakyamuni Buddha said that he is only a Buddha preaching in the Saha world, the name Earth in Buddhism, but in fact there are countless other worlds. Correspondingly, in addition to Shakyamuni Buddha, there are countless other Buddhas who have appeared or will appear and preach in different worlds. Typical examples such as Dipankara Buddha, Padumuttara Buddha, Bhikkhu Buddha appeared a long time ago in other worlds, when the Saha world, ere the current earth, had not yet been formed. Buddhism has the concept, small world, 1,000 planets, middle world, 1 million planets, great world, 1 billion planets, 3,000 worlds, 3 trillion planets. The Buddha said that this universe has countless 3,000 worlds, that is, the number of different worlds is almost infinite. Buddha Shakyamuni once said, in this universe there are countless other worlds, in a glass of water there are countless insects in it. Comparing from a modern scientific point of view, the 3,000 worlds corresponds to a galaxy, and the insects in the bowl of water are bacteria, and indeed in the universe, there are countless number of galaxies, just like in a glass of water, there are countless bacteria. Some other religions consider humanity to be the ultimate being. As for Buddhism, the concept is, all sentient beings are equal, humans, human world, are just one life like other living beings, animal world, asura world, heavenly world. Humanity is also not the ultimate, humanity is inferior to the gods in strength and intelligence. But whether they are humans, gods or animals, they are all creatures, subject to the law of cause and effect. Doing good will result in good, doing evil will result in evil. No creature is eternal, but there is a time to die, and when you die, you will be reincarnated into another life. Whatever the next life will be like depends on whether you have done a lot of good karma or bad karma. For example, if a person does a lot of good things, he can reincarnate as a god in his next life, but if he does a lot of evil things, he will become an animal in his next life. Buddhism also talks about gods and calls them gods, but Buddha said that those gods are just a type of creature living in another world. They have strength and intelligence superior to humans, but they also have limitations. They cannot escape the law of cause and effect, cannot escape birth, death, and reincarnation, nor are they immortal. Even though their lifespan is very long, there must come a time when they die. Thus, Buddhism considers the gods not as omnipotent supreme beings, but only as a form of life more civilized than humans. From a modern scientific perspective, it can be considered that the gods that Buddhism talks about are extraterrestrial civilizations, with a much higher level than humans. Study schedule. Buddha refers to a person who has awakened, thanks to their insight and effort, without needing anyone else to show them the Dharma of cultivation. Becoming a Buddha means a person has been enlightened, has found the path to eliminate all suffering, and is in a state of no more learning. Buddha means a person who knows everything, omniscient, has grasped the truth, has reached the most complete level of enlightenment, can use his own intelligence to perceive the world without needing anyone's instructions. Buddha has two levels of enlightenment. Pacceka Buddha, Sa. Pratyeka Buddha is an enlightened person, but does not have enough ability to teach sentient beings about what he has realized. Fully enlightened Buddha, Sa. Samyak Sambuddha, is a fully enlightened being who is not only enlightened but can also teach sentient beings about what he has realized. Buddhism does not consider Siddhārtha Gautama to be the only Buddha. Buddhist scriptures mention many other Buddhas who appeared in the past, in different worlds. Buddhism does not have a supreme being who judges or has complete authority over life and death. Each person controls his own destiny with the cause and effect created by his karma. No one but himself can judge, save, and erase his sins. Buddha nature is equal in all sentient beings. Anyone has the ability to liberate from nirvana if they accumulate enough good karma and make efforts to practice. The Sangha of Buddhism includes bhikkhus, ordained men, bhikkhunis, ordained women, and upasakas, layman, female family. According to the original teachings, a practitioner achieves body enlightenment when he or she achieves a view of all things as they truly are, that is, reaches the truth, with a mind free from afflictions and delusions. Among the afflictions, craving and ignorance, also called delusion, are the heaviest. Greed, anger and ignorance are collectively called the three poisons, because they greatly affect the mind. Because afflictions surround the mind, the practitioner tries to destroy them, and to destroy them, he or she must strive to achieve true knowledge by practicing the Eightfold Path. When people do not see things as they truly are, the Absolute Truth, also known as the Ultimate Truth, people will be attached, fight, debate, and dispute in theories like a blind person touching an elephant because they only see one side. People are immersed in dogmas like people falling asleep. An awakened person is someone who has thrown away all dogmas to perceive all things as they really are, the absolute truth of matter and consciousness. Not only that, to achieve the truth, humans must also be egoless. When the mind is clear, wisdom appears. People who cling to ego will experience sadness, compassion, suffering, sadness, and worry. If you want to be freed from all suffering, reside in good dharmas, live peacefully, without worries, you must be selfless. Practitioners learn to practice the four foundations of mindfulness meditation, insight meditation, also known as wisdom meditation, vipassana meditation, to clearly see the nature of things, and at the same time constantly learn, listen to opposing opinions and practice the Dharma. Practice in Buddhism is also divided according to the three studies, specifically the practice of morality, precepts, precepts of lay people and monastic precepts, concentration, meditation, and wisdom, insight meditation, vipassana meditation. First of all, the practitioner develops confidence in the three jewels and keeps the precepts according to his or her position, layperson, novice or monk. Through that, we prepare for the next level of practice, which is meditation. This level includes 4 meditation states, 4 meditations. Some practices are mentioned to support the above 4 levels of meditation, which are the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 4 immeasurable minds, that is, cultivating the 4 minds of love, compassion, joy and equanimity, also known as the 4 Brahmas, residence. Meditation at this level is divided into 2 types, 1. Just a method of calming the mind, and 2. Contemplation is a method of meditation based on samatha, that is, only after achieving concentration and tranquility can one achieve success. Fu Quan. The third part of the 3 studies is wisdom, based on meditation. The object of contemplation in meditation here can be the 4 noble truths, the principle of dependent origination or the 5 aggregates. Whoever completes these 3 studies will gain understanding of liberation, knowing that he has achieved liberation. This practitioner's afflictions have been eradicated, the cankas have ended, and asrava free, and the practitioner has attained the 4 saints of arahantship. When practicing, Buddhist students need to have an understanding of the Dharma, the entire Pali Tripitaka, and Dharma practice, meditation on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Practitioners follow the middle way to reach enlightenment, which means staying away from the 2 lifestyles of pleasure and practicing asceticism. Enlightened people will see the birth and death of mind and matter, see the 3 characteristics of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, and see the truth of the 4 holy topics with the wisdom of meditation to reach final liberation. 4 noble paths, 4 noble fruitions, nirvana. Along with the way to practice according to the 3 learnings above, we also find the way according to the 37 body sections. Compared to other religions. 1. Equality. In monotheistic religions there is always a supreme being. Buddhism only considers a level of awareness called enlightenment as supreme, but does not exist as a supreme being. Supreme body, or simply called Buddha, is a level that all sentient beings can achieve if they persevere in practice, calm down and think, and use their wisdom to eventually reach enlightenment. In many religions, believers worship gods. These gods have supernatural powers that humans cannot reach. In Buddhism, the title Buddha refers to a person who has attained enlightenment, reached the realm of liberation, escaped samsara, is completely pure, and moreover, must be a person who has compassion, love, and help for all. All sentient beings without distinction, even if they sacrifice themselves. This title can be achieved by sentient beings, even if the practice period lasts a very long time. Admiration in Buddhism is due to admiration for the compassion, virtue and merit of a person who has achieved supreme body, is respect for a sage, is the willingness to follow virtue and liberation, without any compulsion to obey or seek profit. Buddha himself also affirmed, "I am a Buddha who has become a Buddha, all sentient beings are Buddhas who will become Buddhas." Other religions often have a church and a leader who leads all followers, for example, the Pope of Catholicism, the Caliph of Islam. Buddhism has a church but does not have a leader, all believers are equal. In Buddhism, people with time and high levels of practice will be respected by other believers, but they do not have the right to direct other believers. Before entering Nirvana, Buddha Shakyamuni left a legacy that the Sangha would not have a leader, to avoid the Sangha falling into power and property disputes. The sutras and teachings of the Buddha are something that can help believers rely on it to use their wisdom to enlighten themselves. Hey Ananda, I think that the bhikkhus have no refuge, no one to protect them after I don't think like that. The sutras and laws that I have taught since I became Buddha until now will be a refuge and protection for those teachers. Hey disciples, you should make your own torches. To enlighten you, rely on your own strength, practice diligently. This is just like Kant said, have the courage to use your own intelligence. That is the motto of the Enlightenment. 2. Concept of the world. Meanwhile, monotheistic religions believe that their supreme being is eternal, immutable and the creator of all things, claiming that that supreme being did not come from anywhere, but existed when all things did not exist. In Buddhism believes that all things and phenomena, except nirvana, are impermanent, cannot exist forever, and if there is birth, there must be death. Dependent origination is born, dependent origination is then destroyed. Even space, time, planets and even the universe have a beginning, change and finally an end. In the Sutra of the Origin of Humanity, Buddha preached that there have been countless worlds like the earth that were formed, developed and destroyed in the past, and that in the future there will also be countless worlds born of earth. Out, and then destroy it like that. Today, modern science has proven that the sun will die in about 5 billion years, and the earth will also be destroyed. Many religions believe that the earth is the center of the universe. Buddhism believes that the earth is just one of countless coexisting worlds, each world has different characteristics, the earth is just like a grain of sand in the universe. Buddhism has the concept of small thousand worlds, 1,000 planets, middle thousand worlds, 1 million planets, great thousand worlds, 1 billion planets, 3 great thousand worlds, 3 trillion planets. The Buddha said that this universe has countless 3,000 great worlds, that is, the number of different worlds is almost infinite. Buddha Shakyamuni once said, "In this universe there are countless other worlds, in a glass of water there are countless insects in it." This view has now been proven by modern science to be correct. According to the terminology of modern science, 3,000 great worlds corresponds to a galaxy, while the insects in the bowl of water is bacteria. 3. Concepts of humans and gods. Other religions consider humanity to be the ultimate being. In Buddhism, humans, human world, are just a life like other animals, animal world, asura world, heavenly world. Some lives are more advanced than humans and other animals. Life has different strengths. But whether they are humans, asuras, gods or animals, they are all creatures, subject to the law of cause and effect. Doing good will result in good, doing evil will result in evil, no creature is eternal but there is a time to die, and when you die, you will be reincarnated into another life. The next life depends on whether you have done a lot of good karma or bad karma. For example, if a person has a lot of good deeds, he or she can go to heaven in the next life world, but if you do evil in your next life, you will become an animal in your next life. In most other religions, gods are considered to have supernatural powers. Humans cannot reach their level of power. Buddha also talked about gods, but he said that gods are just a form of living beings in the worlds. In their previous lives, the gods were just humans or animals, but because they created a lot of good karma, in this life they were blessed and reincarnated as gods. They have supernatural power but are not omnipotent. They cannot escape the law of cause and effect, cannot escape the cycle of birth and death, nor are they immortal, although their lifespan is very long. Long, sometimes longer than a world cycle, but eventually they must die. The Buddha preached as follows: if a person does good deeds and accumulates virtue, cultivates meditation to a sufficient extent, in their next life they will be reincarnated into the heavens, becoming a god, but when the blessings run out, the lifespan of the god will be over. That's all, they will die and have to continue reincarnating in the next life. Buddha said that in a number of past lives, he was the heavenly lord Datik, king of the Daoloi heaven, reigned for a long time but then had to die. From a modern point of view, it can be considered that the gods that Buddha talked about are extraterrestrial civilizations with a much higher level than humans. 4. Worship. Buddhism does not force or encourage worship of anyone. We should clearly distinguish forced worship for enjoyment from the sincerity of worship and joy and renunciation of a believer. A true Buddha or monk does not value himself, is willing to sacrifice for sentient beings, touching them. The fact that sentient beings make offerings is because they want to create merit, sow a good cause from which they can eliminate greed, practice, let go of entanglements and be liberated. Making offerings, worshipping, and serving the Buddha, is an act of admiration and imitation for the world-honored one who has liberated and immeasurable compassion. When a person reaches the state of supreme body, the whole universe is shaken and worshipped because of the great virtue of that Buddha, but that Buddha no longer wants anyone to honor and worship him. That status is a fact, not a self-appointment. Buddha has reached and Buddha accepts all sentient beings' hearts towards the right path, to guide sentient beings on how to liberate them. Above all, the state of supreme body is a level that all sentient beings can practice on their own, and achieve according to the Buddha's instructions. A religion is often defined by the relationship between humans and the supernatural or supernatural forces. Most religions believe in these supernatural forces, and are imaged by a supreme being, or saints or gods. Creating humans, humans are governed by them. Along with the ideal is to have rewards and punishments depending on merit and lifestyle. If considered according to the standards of that definition, Buddhism is not considered a religion, because the Buddhist worldview does not have a supreme creator who creates all living things and has the right to reward and punish evil, even though Buddhism has religious activities. In short, Buddhism is like the path to liberation for all sentient beings, without distinction. Buddhism speaks of an objective path to reach the truth. The teachings of Buddhism were not created by Buddha, but are objective truths according to Buddha's enlightenment. Buddha is just someone who discovers, commits and achieves, then goes and teaches sentient beings the way to liberation with immeasurable wisdom and compassion. Buddha views all sentient beings as equal, and anyone can become a Buddha in the future.